Great, thanks, Jim. Good evening. My name is Greg Young. I'm the chair of the Northborough Conservation Commission, and this is the December meeting. This open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16th, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Beals.
Hi, here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Todd Helwig.
Here.
Kelly Marston.
Here.
Very good. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Amia McDonald.
Here.
And Jim DiGiulio.
Here.
Thank you. Some meeting business ground rules. For presenters and applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by roll call vote. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Justin, all you.
All right. There will be a meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission on Monday, December 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. To participate in the public comment portion of this public hearing, go to Northborough Remote Meetings YouTube channel or town website for Zoom information. This meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, and the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw. A request for determination of applicability for 21 Stone Drive, map 14, parcel 55, by Richard and Dixie Nunez for proposed replacement of septic tank, pump tank, leaching bed, and associated site work. Notice of intent for 44 Fisher Street, map 42, parcel 30, by Manish Patel for after the fact application for vegetation clearing and vegetation restoration in riverfront area and associated site work. A notice of intent for 14 Hillside Road, map 105, parcel 13, by Julio Roque, Seacoast Mortgage Corporation for proposed septic system repair and associated site work. Notice of intent for 200 Bartlett Street, map 66, parcel 7, by Richard Gates, R.J. Devereaux Corp., for proposed construction of a contractor's yard with associated parking, utilities, stormwater infrastructure, and associated site work. A continued notice of intent for 0 Hudson Street, map 53, parcels 19, 20, and 21, DEP file number 247-1196 by Scott Goddard, Circle Assets LLC, for proposed construction of 2 duplexes with associated appurtenances, a constructed wetland replication area, bordering land subject to flooding, compensatory storage, and associated site work, and a vote to expend $4,600 from the Conservation Fund for the removal of hazard trees from 0 Whitney Street, map 36, parcel 30.
November meeting minutes. Let's take a look at those. Kelly, you need to recuse on this one. You weren't here last month, right? Any questions, comments, concerns?
I would move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Second by Justin or Tom?
Justin.
Okay.
Justin.
Roll call on the approval. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Very good. Mia, we have a continuation for 0 Hudson Street, correct? And 2 postponements.
Yes,
So the continuation we should vote on to continue it to December. The postponements, we've never opened, so we can just move along and skip those, correct?
yep. I'd vote to postpone them just to keep that you approve the postponement, you know.
All right. So let's deal with these first. 0 Hudson Street. We need a motion to continue.
So moved. Second.
Seconded.
And that's to the January meeting. This is to the
The
next
January
meeting.
10th meeting, correct? Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. For the postponements, can we just lump these together, Mia, and do it as one?
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
we need a motion to postpone the NOIs for 14 Hillside Road and 200 Bartlett Street
To the January meeting.
to the January 10th meeting.
So I'm not going to move this, and I'll make the announcement now. I have to recuse myself on 200 Bartlett Street because I'm representing the property owner.
Okay,
I'm gonna make a motion to postpone 14 Hillside Road to the January meeting and 200 Bartlett Street to the January meeting.
A second? Seconded by muted Justin.
Second. Yeah.
Got it. Okay,
Good lip reading.
there you go. All right, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Get that out of the way. Continue notice of intent for Sullivan Pond Vegetative Management. And I believe we have Dominic for that one. Jim, you're too quick for me.
Folks,
Anybody else? Dominic, anybody else you need to join you here?
not sure. Janet Sandstrom is here or Rick McWilliams. Oh, I'm not sure if they're attending or not.
Neither one shows up.
Okay. I guess we're good then.
Okay. All right, so continuation from last month. We did get the DEP number, I believe, and also
Yes.
some comments. And Mia says you've answered all of her questions. Is that true, Mia?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I think the outstanding item, actually, Dominic, I know you emailed me, but you had considered moving the landing area.
Yes, and we really don't have any progress on that. So I know the association was supposed to reach out to the property owner to see if we could do that. So I don't have that information. So I guess that's something that we'll have to iron out with you, Mia, before we start work.
And
Why
then
move the landing area? Why is it being discussed?
Well, the area we have marked on the map, I guess, is right where the outflow is. And it also, I think we had wanted to move it over to that parking lot. Trying to remember now.
That's the only outlet to the pond is right there. So having the landing area right next to the outlet. We were worried about sedimentation.
Where's the proposed new location?
Let me share this.
Trying to pull up the map here.
Okay, I see figure 4 now on the screen.
Yeah, so is it the parking lot at the restaurant there?
Oh, all the way over that, all the way over there. Yep. Because the current proposed offloading area is highlighted in the yellow, and that's between the buildings, next to the
Yeah.
outflow pipe. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't realized that when I did the map, but I know we discussed at the last meeting.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about going to the parking lot of the restaurant.
Yes, that was right, Mia. I'm trying to remember the discussion we had. I believe it was the parking lot, the edge of the parking lot there.
It has to be dewatered, right, for a little while.
Yeah, so the machine has to be launched from a trailer, and the material has to be offloaded from the hydro rake to an area, dewatered for a short amount of time, and then then it would be moved to a dumpster, like a roll-off dumpster, and then taken off site. Yeah, it does need to dewater for just a short amount of time.
Without knowing where this is going to be set up, we really can't move this forward.
Okay.
Because the restaurant may say no, thank you, and then we're back. That's so we need to get. I think we need to get a firm landing area decided before we can go ahead and take action here. I mean, that's my opinion. Does anybody feel different on the commission that without that info?
I guess if it needed to stay where it is proposed, I know, Mia, you said the outlet's there. Would there be a way to protect the outlet?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, a way to protect the outlet, or how much room do you need? I don't know how much room the equipment needs and how big of a pile you would need.
So we're planning on having it, we're not planning on having a large pile. We're just gonna, let it dewater for a matter of a few hours, and then have it then put into a roll-off dumpster or a small truck. So I thought that was the best. I mean, that seemed to be the best area. I mean, we can obviously avoid that specific area. We can move it off a little bit to the side of where the actual outlet pipe is.
So you think there's enough room over there where you can have a dewatering area and the equipment? So we've got the three things. We've got dewatering, the equipment has to move around, and the outlet.
Yes. Yeah, I think there is room. I think this is something that we might have to, it's something that I think we might have to fine tune in the field anyways, the exact location. Now that I'm looking at the parking lot again, I mean, it seems like there's, it seems like that really might not work, is that there's a tree line there between the parking lot and the water. I'm not sure if there's like a elevation change or any kind of retaining wall or anything at the edge of the parking lot. So we may have to, stay as far away from the outlet as we can, but still use that general lawn-in area there for the operations. Hoping that maybe we can move forward with that general area approved, and then if there's some fine tuning or adjustment needed when we start work, that was something that we can work out with Mia on site.
Could we propose some downstream protection to keep the pile or any of the, material from migrating
Absolutely.
downstream?
We do hay bales downstream, down slope of the pile. We also, I don't think we can put a turbidity. We're going to be actually working right near the outlet, so we can't. Once we get a kind of some water opened up in there, we could put a turbidity curtain, even if it's just in the little channel right in front of it before it goes into the culvert. We could put a turbidity curtain there, or even silt, like a silt fence across that area.
I like a turbidity curtain because you're going to be moving the equipment. Can you see my cursor?
I'm sorry, I was looking at another map.
So you
Yeah.
can, this is the outlet, and this is the area where we're proposing the pile and the equipment to be coming in and out of the water. So it's going to get ripped up a bit. So, avoiding the outlet, not driving over it, and adding the turbidity curtain would be helpful.
Yeah, and certainly a row of hay bales, silt fence at that edge too, and
So-
also along the water's edge.
So you're proposing is there a detail or a note about wrapping the pile and bales? And we have to use straw bales in Northborough. We don't allow hay.
Okay.
Is there a detail in
Straw one.
here about wrapping the pile? I don't remember reading anything about that.
Not a specific detail. We say, well, erosion controls will be put into place.
So you'd have to create like an area. You'd have to build it and then dump inside of it.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it does say, so it's actually on page 3 of the project description. That's where we talk about the hydro raking.
Okay, the same thing.
Yeah, it really doesn't talk much about the disposal area. I don't know, is it possible to put a condition in that a final site plan would be worked out in conjunction with the commission and its agent, but be in that general vicinity? I'm just.
You want to stick around the original location?
I think so. I think in terms of accessing it, I think that's still going to be our best choice. We have the road right up on the other side of the buildings there. I don't think I really, now that I'm looking more at the parking lot, I don't really think that's going to be an option because of the trees that are there. There's some open areas of the lawn right along the water. So I think that's already, not disturbed, but it's already altered. It's not vegetation there. There's water, lawn or down to the water's edge. There's access is already there. So I think that would be the best spot to work with.
The edge of that parking lot for the restaurant has a bank. It's probably like a 2-foot bank. So I don't know that that's going to work.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. And it does look like there's a good amount of trees along there between the parking lot and the water's edge. So
I'm okay with the outload in going in and out in that spot as long as we protect the outlet and the turbidity curtain, you know, and then hay bales or straw bales or whatever. You know, hay bales would be fine for dewatering because it's only going to be there for a short term. It's not like they're going to be left there for, you know, 6 months.
Right.
Right.
There's, yeah,
Sure.
there's not a huge area. So, and it really just needs that initial dewatering. So that usually happens pretty quickly.
Dominic, you have any issue, you have the permission of of those abutters to use that area?
Yeah, so that's our client. So the
Okay, good.
homeowners association is the applicant here. So yes.
Okay, they live right near there, so we're fine. Okay. All right. So we're gonna stick with the same location and just armor it as discussed with
Yes.
a curtain and with some bales and some fencing and so forth. Okay.
I think we should definitely have the something for submittal at some point prior to the work starting.
Agree. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think we should meet on site with.
You know, as part of the order, we don't have to have the detail now, but submit it prior to.
Detailed plan prior to the start of the activity approved by Mia.
Always falls to Mia.
That's it. She's the linchpin. Any more questions from the commission, concerns or comments about this approach?
No, I'm good with it. I think we
Okay.
should. Oh,
Let me see if there's any public comment. Any public comment out there? I don't see any hands up. Okay.
Anyone from the public? Someone called and said they were planning to attend. Please raise your hand.
Nothing happening there. We've got 6 folks lined up out there, but I think most are on the agenda.
Okay.
A couple aren't. Going once, twice, 3 times. All right. So we're gonna move ahead with the plan, close the hearing, and then issue an order.
With the special
Need a
condition to submit the plan, right?
An operations or detailed implementation plan prior to the start of those activities to be
Okay.
approved by you.
make a motion to close the hearing.
Second,
Seconded by Justin. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Hearing is now closed. So now we need a motion.
Make a motion to issue a notice of intent for Solomon Pond Vegetative Management with the condition that the dewatering area detail be submitted prior to commencing of the project.
Okay.
Second,
There's a second. Seconded by, was that Todd? Justin.
Justin,
Very good. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. All right. We've
Great.
got
Thank
a
you very
plan.
much, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you. Dominic, you're gonna wait till spring now, or what's your plan? Summertime, right?
I actually, after talking with the client, I think we're gonna wait till probably later in the summer, when the biomass is kind of at its greatest, when those floating, I know there's a couple floating islands in the area that may not pop up till later in the summer. So I think the plan will be to wait till late summer, probably September, October.
Thanks, Dominic. Appreciate your support and help there.
Thank you, folks. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right. 190 Howard Street. Mitch is with us here. And we have a hand up. hold on, we got a hand up. Mark Arnold, you have your hand up.
I didn't mean to.
Okay,
Sorry.
you take it down and we'll talk to you soon. Okay. Did Mitch already brought Mitch in? Okay, good. So this is the 190 Howard Street, proposed construction of the horse pasture ring and some site work. We opened it up last month, had some discussions. There were some recommendations made. Hey, Mitch.
Hey, how you doing, Greg?
Good, thank you. Good. So what's going on?
So we had taken all the commissions and abutters concerns into consideration, and we had hired engineer Vito Colonna from Cornerstone Engineering to design the stormwater management on the site for the clearing and for the proposed paddock. So that is a huge improvement to the plan. So if I could share my screen, I could go over that stormwater management design that Vito had put together for us. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
I can, yes.
All right, excellent. So I guess before I get into the stormwater, I'll go over just some minor details that we added to the plan. We added the square footage for each pasture onto the plan so that they know how much square footage each pasture will provide for the horses, which the applicant needed to know so that she could design these pastures to be able to meet the regulations set by the town and the state for having horses roam in the pasture spaces. One thing added to the plan was this proposed stable next to an existing barn. That stable will house the horses, and that has been placed outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, which is right here. And there's our wetlands over here. And this wet paddock was on the last plan, but I'll just reiterate that'll be the wet weather paddock for when it rains. The horses will be out in this pasture so that there's no horses out in the grass areas during the rainstorms to prevent it from getting muddied up and losing vegetative cover of those areas. We also moved this manure storage area over closer to this fence line here. It was previously proposed just in the middle of this space, so we just shifted it over here. And this stormwater feature was presented on the last plan. Vito was okay with that design there to capture whatever stormwater is in this area going down gradient. It'll be caught in this vegetated swale and then be brought to this riprap pad here. Now, Vito had designed this area as our stormwater management area for the runoff that comes from these pasture and paddock areas towards these down gradient wetlands over here. So what he had designed was this 2 to 3 foot tall berm, which is seen as these lines. This is the grading that's proposed to make those berms here, so that the whatever flow comes down here naturally settles in front of those berms and creates a rain garden. And we're not proposing any vegetative clearing in those areas. Vito had designed it so that that vegetation could stay in there, and we're not going to be removing large trees that are within this proposed berm area. There's also a riprap pad and some outlet pipes here for for some stormwater relief in the larger storms. So this area will be fenced off to protect the horses from getting in there. We didn't propose any stormwater management within the pastures since it would have been too dangerous for the horses. You wouldn't want them stepping in a ditch that was going through the paddock areas and such. So that's why the rain garden was proposed off to the side of the pasture space. The berm is proposed just outside of the 25-foot no disturb area. So this is just some grading occurring. There's no structure that's proposed within a 35-foot. So that is the stormwater management design that Vito came up with. So we believe that satisfies the commission and the abutters so that we can ensure that their properties won't be impacted by the clearing here and the use of the land over time. It is important to note that Vito designed these areas, these stormwater areas, so that it took into consideration a 50% vegetated cover in these areas in case the pastures do become less vegetated in some seasons if they get trampled a bit more than desired. The pastures will rotate the horses so that once an area or before an area becomes loosely vegetated with grass, the horses will be moved to a different pasture so that the previous pasture can recover. One more thing to note is there was a small proposed berm right over here, so that drainage that comes this way towards the pastures will just be directed away from the pastures and just right into the 100-foot buffer zone here. So tonight we'd be hoping that the commission is accepting of the new proposed plan with the stormwater design and request a order of conditions tonight. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'd be happy to answer.
All right, so we've got the berm is what, 2 to 3 feet tall, and you're keeping the trees up there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Justin, what are your thoughts here? I remember last meeting you had some comments and some overall direction, I think, that Mitch took and ran with.
Yeah, I mean, I like this better. I feel like it's a lot more natural. You know, this is just basically capturing kind of the sheet flow off the pastures, where before, if you guys will remember, there was some swales kind of located along the sides, and that was really directing the flow, almost kind of creating a point source discharge that looked like it was kind of heading right towards the neighbors. And I think that was kind of a concern for them, was that they had some additional water, you know, that they had already kind of voiced their concerns that they have a good amount of water that comes into their yards now. And this really is looking at more of a sheet flow kind of uniform condition and creating that pocket at the bottom, which is a pretty substantial area for water to kind of pool up and sit there. And then, you know, they are allowing it to kind of bleed through that berm with a couple 4-inch pipes, which, you know, can only handle so much water. So there won't be a ton of water, you know, getting through a 4-inch pipe either. So it kind of gives an area for the water to sit and then, you know, kind of slowly bleed through that berm. So, I mean, I think for me, something like this seems to kind of work with the topography a little better, seems a little bit more natural than just those swales that we looked at before. So I think, you know, I don't know where Mia kind of Fred's reviewed everything from calculation standpoint, kind of check things out there. But I mean, I think from my end, this seems a lot more in line with just trying to kind of stay natural, you know, through this area.
Other questions from the commissioner, comments?
I'm happy with it. I like the grading
Hmm.
of this plan compared to the last one. I think it's going to work.
Mia, what about the calculations and Fred's input?
Fred and I could not connect. He's had a really busy week. He's covering a lot for Kathy just got back. So but I did read the stormwater report, and you know, he did the full calcs for the 100-year storm. There's no increase. And then for the 100-year storm, he matched pre-existing versus proposed conditions. And every other storm, there's a decrease. Yeah, Vito stamped that as well.
Excellent. So Mia, in your position, is there any reason why we can't move forward here? Are there any
No.
other outstanding items or comments or questions? I mean,
I just
majority of the-
recommend a long-term, an ongoing permanent condition that the berm is maintained in good condition.
what about, is there any sort of cutting plan required, the amount of trees coming down?
Mitch, do you want to go over the construction sequence?
Yes, I will. Yep, so we have the construction sequence on the site plan. Can't zoom in anymore, I guess, but yep, so we'll install the erosion and sediment controls first. Then our plan is to construct the stormwater management features. There may be some minor clearing that has to occur to get in here and do this grading to create that berm. And then we'll be, once that's completely constructed, we'll be doing the entire clearing and grubbing of the area and keeping 2 to 3 larger trees in this pasture and in this pasture. And then we'll finish our sequence with loaming and seeding all the disturbed areas. And finally, once the vegetation has established itself, we'll remove all the temporary erosion controls. So we also have this more in-depth sediment and erosion control methods and procedures here as well for some of our requirements to stabilize soils within set time periods, like 10 days and 14 days in some circumstances. So does that answer your question?
It does. There's no other, because since I think we talked about how we're kind of like the only group in town who's going to approve this, right? So I
That's
want to
right.
make
It's an
sure
allowed
that
use.
that all of the items that need to be covered are in fact covered. There's a lot of trees coming down here, and are there any other requirements we need to worry about? The way the tree, the timing. Tom, you might be able to chime in here in terms of a cutting plan. Is that needed or is that assumed? You're muted. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's no required forestry plan or anything like that. It's a clear cut.
Mhm.
And it's I think it's still under what, 2 acres? I don't remember the acreage on it, but
I think
yeah.
it's more than that. 1.5 is that? I see 1.5 acres there. Is it 1.5 acres, Mitch, you're clearing or more?
It's 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, I had myself muted. Yeah, it is right here for you. Area to be cleared, 1.5 acres.
So it's really no different than somebody doing a house lot, when you think about it. Realistically, that, you could be taking that much of, tree and stumps out for a house lot. So I'm fine with it. I think we've met all the requirements, so that they can move forward with this.
And yeah, the health department works on their own timeline for requirements, right? So
That's right.
okay. Any more questions from the commissioner comments? Let me see if we have any public participation out here. Any public questions, or anybody have a question or comment or concern about where we are here with this discussion? I don't see any hands up. Going once, twice. Okay. So we can close the hearing and move forward. Any special conditions you think that we might need if it's approved, Mia?
Installation of erosion controls with an
Right.
inspection, that's a standard condition. A permanent ongoing condition that they maintain the berm. That, I don't want to go out in 2 or 3 years and see it's kind of degraded. And trying to give anything else. The site notes are already on the plan, which is, we prefer them there instead of in the project narrative, so that the site contractor has them.
Then we need a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second,
By Todd. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes,
I vote yes. Hearing is now closed. So now we need a motion to issue a order of conditions for 190 Howard Street with the requirements and conditions that Mia has outlined.
I make the motion.
And I'll
As
second it.
stated.
Roll call vote. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Mitch, thanks you
Hope you have a
for
good-
addressing our concerns right away and rapidly and with a good solid plan too. So
Yep, no problem.
last question for you here, this one tonight. What's the timeline for this? Mitch?
Oh, I thought you said Tom. The timeline,
Oh, email.
what's up?
No, timeline for this project.
Oh, I'd have to talk with the applicant to see when they're ready to go, to be honest. Our first step was really just to get the project
Okay.
approved, and then they're gonna
No,
figure
I'm
it out.
just curious if it was going to be starting the spring or summer or TBD. So it's not a problem.
Yep, I'll reach out to Mia and let her know our timeline, and
Great.
I'm sure she'll inform you.
I'm sure she will. Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mitch.
No problem. All right, see you guys soon.
Take care. That was a pretty nice stormwater management plan that Vito put together, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, we are at an RDA for 21 Stone Drive.
okay.
So my
That is-
first comment is I'm not sure why it's an RDA and it wasn't order or a notice of intent.
I believe it's Dan McIntyre.
Okay.
And McIntyre.
Dan
And
McIntyre.
Dan, you're being brought in. Here you go, Dan. Unmuted. Here he is.
Dan McIntyre representing the homeowners.
Very good. Thank you, Dan. What's the answer to Tom's question?
That's what was submitted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can only act on what's submitted.
Given the distance to the wetlands for the bulk of the construction, which is the leach field, we felt an RDA, excuse me, was an appropriate choice for this one. Can I share my screen?
Sure.
Can everyone see that?
I can see a plan and a photo of the house.
Perfect. So just to orientate you, down at the bottom of the screen is Stone Drive. It has a gravel driveway coming up to an existing home that was built in the 1970s. We had Goddard Consulting flag the wetlands. There's some wetlands in the back on a vacant piece of property, as well as wetlands over to the side, which I believe is owned by the town of Northborough, that vacant lot over there. The existing system is in the backyard. There's a tank and a pump tank and an existing leach field here. We are proposing to move the system from the backyard into the front yard so we can get it essentially out of the 100-foot buffer zone, which is delineated here, 100 feet off of this wetland here and 100 feet off of the wetland over here. So as I say, the bulk of the construction is the leach field. So that'll be essentially outside the 100-foot buffer. In the back, we still have to put a septic tank back here and to tie into the existing plumbing. And then we're going to pipe it over to a pump tank to the side of the house and then up to the leach field. So all of the work will be outside the 50-foot buffer delineated here and over here. So there's very little disturbance in the backyard. It's all previously disturbed. It's lawn out there now. No tree cutting out in here. In the front yard, you'll see in the photograph, you can see where we dug our test pits. Gravel driveway coming up here. There's a clump of trees right in here that will be in the way for the leach field. We're proposing to take those down. But as I mentioned, those are outside the 100-foot buffer. Construction access will be off the driveway, right off the roadway, and up along the side of the garage here. So we can collapse those tanks, put on the new tank and the new pump tank. The existing leach field will just be abandoned in place. No need to pull that out. So we're proposing erosion controls around the work disturbance areas here and here. And as discussed with Mia last week, we're going to extend it up along here to protect this side of the driveway from any erosion going that way.
So everything's outside the 50 and a lot of it's outside the 100, right?
It is.
Okay. Tom, what do you think? You think that's why do you think it might be a notice of intent?
You know, after seeing the plan, you know, I'm okay with it, you know, as an RDA. You know, most of it is the main part of the construction's outside of the 100, so.
Yeah, the whole leaching field set up out in front stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
All right, good.
Can I share one other reason I think it's okay to be an RDA? Like when I initially reviewed this, I thought we would probably bump this up to an NOI, but then I visited the site. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, let me stop my share.
I took some photos that, where'd the photo go? Just 1 second. That in-ground pool in the back creates a real barrier. Can you see this is the backyard?
Yes.
And then there's an in-ground pool. So this is their lawn. And then there's actual like a rise here. And so they will be putting the new tank in here with an erosion control barrier back here, which is a little bit of a low point. But they're definitely not going to be driving equipment, you know, in that 50-foot area where it's like, yes, the work is 50 feet away, but will the machines be 50 feet away? Yes, they will be. They'll be on the far side. Trying to get there's more. So it's just the pool.
Yeah, it looks like most of the site's relatively flat, so I'm fine with the RDA.
And this is that area with the driveway. I do think that the machines are going to be using the driveway to get to the front yard. And it does slope down a little bit right here. So if you had things tearing up this side of the driveway, then we would want a barrier in between.
Yeah, we'll add that to the plan.
Okay.
So from the tree to the trailer roughly, in that area, Mia?
Yeah, I think the line goes here, and I'm asking them to extend it all the way up.
Oh, around there. Okay, yeah, around. Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Or even it could go here. It could go along the drive, because that would be a shorter line.
Yeah. As long as we can leave an opening where that pickup truck is so we can access to get the
You're going to be
tank in.
driving to the backyard this side.
Yeah.
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 Any more questions from the commission or concerns, comments? Fairly straightforward, I think, given the main two options. Let me check with the public here. Any hands raised, questions? I see none.
So with this RDA, with the determination of applicability, we can only fit 2 or 3 conditions. You know, most of the construction notes are on the plan. If we need anything else, that we need to add it to the plan, because like I said, there's not a lot of room in the determination document, which is only like 3 or 4 pages. And it's just a teeny little space for conditions. And if you have to append conditions, you should really be going up to an order. So we will need that revised plan with the erosion controls because we don't want to condition that. But we do want to condition an inspection and approval of erosion controls prior to the start of work.
All right.
Do you have anything about site stabilization in the general notes? I have to double check.
We have some erosion control notes on there already. The first one is the contract.
Do you have anything about if a stockpile is to remain or an area is to be left open more than 7 days, we want to see temporary stabilization? Or we could do 14 days.
No, but I can. Generally on these small jobs, the entire job is about 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Depending on when they start. This may be a spring job. It depends on how soon winter comes in to greet us. But they could certainly put down some straw or some mulch or something down there.
Do you have a contractor lined up yet?
We expect it to be Curtis Septic. A contract hasn't been signed yet, but it seems to be going in that direction.
Okay, could you add a note on the plan then? About any disturbed areas left open more than 14 days will be receive temporary stabilization. And is there already a note on here that everything exposed will be loamed and seeded?
Yes.
Looking for that as well.
Okay.
Okay, erosion controls to remain in place until vegetation is established. Is there anything about loam and seed the areas?
It should be on the general plan.
I'm looking for now.
If you look up in the cross section, section AA, we've got the proposed grade loam and seed.
Yep.
And in construction note number 7, seed to establish grade in all disturbed areas.
Yep, great, thank you.
To me, the added erosion controls to the side of that driveway will be part of the plan, the revised plan.
Yep, we need the revised plan and then to get that revised plan as the approved plan. You know, the revision date.
Okay. All right. We closed the hearing already, right? Yes?
No, just vote to issue a negative determination with the conditions that the plan is revised. Well, I guess we just have to agree that the plan is revised. So we won't issue the determination until we receive that revised plan. Which we're in a little bit of a tight spot because we're supposed to issue that within 21 days.
Well,
When can you get me the revised plan?
You're
Sorry, I
muted.
can't hear you.
You're
I
muted,
can
Dan.
have it to you tomorrow morning.
Okay, great. And so I guess the only condition would be to inspect and approve the erosion controls prior to the start of work.
So we're thinking about issuing a negative determination with the points as listed by Mia. The key one being the receipt of the revised plan. So we need a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Seconded by Kelly. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You, Dan. Make sure you get that to me as soon as you can, right?
Will do.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Greg, I'm probably gonna hop off before the next one just because I gotta be in this next hearing at 7. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. We got enough in while you were here to make it worthwhile, though, Justin. So
Yeah.
that's good.
absolutely. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Take care. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's.
Same to you and
You
yours.
too.
See you in 2022.
Yes.
All right. 44 Fisher Street meeting. We get what you were looking for.
Yes, we got the planting plan. We should bring Mark Arnold in.
Okay, Mark Arnold will be in.
And so this is two items on the agenda. This is under violations. I received a violation report, which Mark will probably summarize, and then I wrote a violation letter, and I asked for an NOI, I think by the January meeting, but they got it in for this meeting. They responded, because I don't think I told you guys about this at the last meeting. I think this came in within the past month. So it's two items on the agenda. It's under violations, 44 Fisher Street, and then this notice of intent is to address that violation. So it's a twofer.
Hello, Mark.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of Manish Patel for 44 Fisher Street. This is a notice of intent for restoration of clearing that was done without a permit. DEP file number 247-1207. So this was in response to an enforcement order that was issued on November 10th of 2021 with regards to clearing along the buffer zone around the pond and wetlands, including work within the riverfront to a river that flows through the property. The property was pretty well managed in previous history. It's a man-made pond along a river that's been managed significantly since a lot of ornamental shrubs or evergreen shrubs that were obviously planted there and maintained. And then again, there's a large house with a driveway that snakes through the property, a lot of trees that were planted for aesthetics purposes, particularly white birch. So this was like
pictures. Hold on one second, Mark. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Give
let
some
me.
pictures, Mia, to give us a frame of reference here.
Mark, do you want to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see here. I want to go. I guess I just go
I think we know where the house is, right? Most folks know what we're talking about here.
here.
Corner of Crawford and Fisher.
Sorry, this is the wrong file. Hold on. That's not the one. Where's my notice of intent? Where's the notice of, oh, did I close it out? I closed out the notice of intent package. Sorry. Hold on one moment. Let me just pull. There it is. So this is here's these are example photos. So this is just downgrading of the bridge here. There were evergreen, I believe juniper trees, shrubs in this area. We know that from Google Earth Street View actually, that was actually juniper shrubs in that area there. This is an area on the edge of the pond. There's a spillway that leaves the pond right here. This was a lot of shrubs, and then there were a lot of white birch trees right around the spillway there. So they basically they cut everything down. They did some stump grinding in some places. A lot of the shrubs they just cut flush with the ground. But there was really no other earth disturbance that really occurred. They weren't digging up things. They basically just they were cutting everything down. So this is again, Mr. Patel was a little unaware of exactly what the requirements were for doing this, and from him telling me the landscapers went a little overboard on just adjusting and just cleaning up some of the areas. There was some vegetation. Again, here's as you can see where the stumps were located along here. Pruning of one of the limbs here. This is the slope just below the house. This was almost all ornamental evergreen shrubs of some sort. There were some more native stuff along the edge of the pond. And here, again, here's some more stump grindings. There was a large pine that was in this area that was leaning over the pond. It was probably going to fall down eventually. And so he was concerned about it falling into the pond and then being a big issue to get out. That's where he started doing some of his cleanup. And then from his wording, they went a little overboard. So from our estimate, there was, I think, where's my narrative up here? I think there's roughly about 25 trees that were cut, 50 to 60 shrub clusters that were cut. It's hard to identify how many were cut because we're dealing with an area that was heavily landscaped. We could see some of where they cut stuff, but it was getting hard to understand the actual scope of the actual area that they covered. But roughly 25 trees, the stumps were either located or we knew there was a stump that was ground up. So therefore we counted that as a tree. And then shrub clusters around the pond area that we were able to. And most of them, there was a lot of white pine, white birch. I believe there was a lot of arborvitae evergreen shrubs, juniper as well, that were out there. But there were some natives. I saw at least one red oak dogwood, which I expect to come back, but at this point we're considering that everything has died in the sense of if it regrows naturally, we're going to leave it to grow back naturally. But if it doesn't come back, that's why we have a planting plan put in place. There were some other trees that were pruned of weak and dead limbs, but that shouldn't really affect the growth of the vegetation that's there in regards to that. So the plan is
Mark, 1 second. Did anything get into the pond during that cutting?
I don't think so. I think the landscapers that did the work were pretty good at actually dropping stuff away from the pond itself. So not from my review, there was nothing really in the pond. It looked like they did a very careful job making sure nothing fell into the pond because he didn't want to ruin the aesthetics of the pond. He's really concerned about making sure the pond continues to function naturally like a pond versus filling in with sediment. So he really wants to make sure that he has a nice native pond there that is beautiful and also provides a lot of function and value. So we have a planting plan. We're putting in total of 38 trees and 80 shrubs within the buffer zone and riverfront area. And we did list a large selection of species with our goal of basically having at least multiple species that are selected. And the reason for that is because supply and demand can be tricky to find when you want a certain species. So in the sense of we decided to list a large grouping of native trees. So you have your box elder, maple, red maple, silver maple, river birch, gray birch, white birch, Atlantic white cedar, eastern Atlantic turmeric, and black gum. Those are all plants that are listed on New England Wetland Plants website that they say are in supply. But again, depending on the sizing and everything else, we're looking for 4 to 6 foot tall trees here. Shrubs, your classic edge of wetland shrubs. So you got your black alder, serviceberry, red chokeberry, black chokeberry, silky dogwood, rozier dogwood, winterberry, inkberry, common spice bush, mulberry, and sweetberry bush. So some mix of wetland, but also some buffer zone shrubs because we do have a wet area, but we also have some, the ground is higher around some of the areas of the pond that are there. And again, the goal is to have a selection of 4 or more species preferred, but at least 3 different species have to be selected for trees and the shrubs. That way you have diversity in the actual goal there. And I believe we put in our plan, just because we understand how much of an impact the vegetation was, 75% survival of trees and 75% survival of shrubs in 2 different categories after 2 years to ensure that is met. And so this plan roughly shows roughly where we would do the layout of the plantings in the sense of the trees and the shrub clusters. We do know there were some shrub clusters, particularly like, for example, in this mulch area and these 2 mulch in this mulch bed area here, but because they're further from the resource area, and also the fact that they're more of a landscaped area, we thought it was more appropriate to make sure that the bank of the pond was restored more fully and thicker in regards to the plantings than restoring this landscape bed, because this landscape bed is surrounded by lawn right now. But over here, we did do a lot of trees because we did notice that a lot of trees did come down in this area. And so we put back the trees in those areas. So that's roughly a quick summary of the notice of intent. DEP did have a few comments which came through. One was estimating how much area was impacted. It's hard to evaluate how much disturbance occurred because it wasn't really earthwork. It was more just vegetational cutting, but it was roughly around, I estimate around 12,000 square feet of work. And this is all within the riverfront because this stream that's labeled on here is actually a perennial river. So the whole work is within the riverfront area. And then you have buffer zone as well. We do plan to let everything that regrows to regrow naturally. And then again, I did have a good conversation with the owner about the reason when you're working with the commission, when you're working with areas, you need to be very clear about what you're going to do with any type of vegetation. If you're going to do any type of management, you need to talk with the commission before you do any further type of management on the property. Just because in the future, I'm sure there would be some need to do some pruning just to make sure things are healthy at the same time. He needs to definitely be in communication with the commission before any other cutting is done on the property. I did email Mia. I hope you got your email, the certified receipts. I did email you. them right here, and we do have a DP file number. We did not propose necessarily any invasive species management. We could definitely do that as a condition if necessary to kind of, as we monitor the plantings, to monitor for any invasives that come in. I didn't notice any in cut invasives, like there's no buck or anything else, again, because this was a pretty well managed pond area, and since there were a lot of native shrubs and ornamentals that were planted, and they obviously just been maintaining them pretty well for the long time this property has been in existence. So that's our presentation. I'm glad to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Mark. Any questions from the commission or comments? I mean, we have a violation took place with cutting the trees, but there's also a pretty robust restoration plan that's going to go into place here too.
I think the restoration plan, this planting plan is great. 75% survival rate is what we should condition. That's our typical restoration condition, and that'll be in there. So the DEP comments, I think Mark addressed them, but I just want to make sure I get them noted correctly. And he said about 12,000 square feet. So 12,000 square feet will be noted as altered, and then 12,000 square feet will be restored. And then they ask about how the herbaceous stratum and volunteer shrubs trees will be managed within the restored areas. So right now they're mulched beds. Will they be weeded, or will it be allowed? Will the volunteer plants be? And it's really, right now, I think the commission sees that they are mulched beds with sort of a manicured bank with the mulched bed and the trees. So just, will that be allowed to be returned to a more herbaceous area, or is it going to be maintained as a mulched bed with the trees and shrubs? I
think the intention is to maintain what was there before. With regards to the mulched beds. I do know that the owner does want to kind of, I know he had some thoughts about providing some additional vegetation work on the property, but he needed to talk to a landscape architect to kind of do that, and that's a separate issue. But at the moment, I don't think he has any plans to allow things to go back wild per se. Again, this was a pretty well managed pond. It was pretty obvious that the lawn was very artfully cut out and curved, edged really nicely. The mulching was all done very specifically, so it does look like it had been maintained for a long time that way. So I think that was the intention of the owners, to keep it that way.
Yeah, that was in like the mid 70s. That's the famous letter. I don't know if I've told you guys about the letter. I have a letter on my wall from the 70s about these ponds, and it only reads, maybe Tom, you might remember this. Dear Mr. Ellis, our next letter will be nasty and will be delivered by the constable, and it's signed by the chairman. So that's how they used to send letters back then. But that is closed. That whole, luckily that file has a certificate of compliance, and these are the ponds we have. And so just note, so when you're looking at the plan, I want to comment that the areas with the green are the clusters of shrubs, and those are going to have a more naturalized look than what's out there now, because the shrubs he's proposing are all multi-stemmed. So you're going to see less of that mulch area. You're going to see more of a naturalized look, more of that habitat, more shading. But the areas with the orange circles are going to look more like it does now, which is more of the trees with the mulched look. So just, I think it's fine, because it's still going to be an overall improvement once we get it all done and in place. But just so the commission is aware, and as long as you're okay with it as well, as long as the commission's okay with it. Then the last from the DEP, will there be monitoring for invasive species? I do think we should condition that, we do usually for restoration projects, we require monitoring reports, usually after the initial planting, then within the next growing season, and then prior to the issuance of the certificate of compliance. And those monitoring reports we usually require that they address if any invasive species are there and how they're going to be removed if they are there.
Yeah, we're fine with doing the invasive species. It's typical. Whenever I'm on a site, even if I'm not supposed to do it, I still watch for them. And if I can pull them, I pull them, just because I want to make sure the environment's as best possible. So wherever it's possible, we definitely are welcome to that condition.
And this is a landscaped area, so it's not like we're asking a homeowner to go out there and get on their hands and knees and try to learn what these identification are. He's going to be hiring a landscaper. So if the landscaper could just be asked to remove the invasives.
Yeah, will we try and catch the first growing season here this spring coming up?
That's our hope. Our hope is to get it put in this spring.
Mia, if they go back to mulching, do we ever put restrictions on the type of mulch with all the chemicals and stuff that they put in mulch?
We haven't before. And this area is, I mean, we could request it, but it's existing. This is an
Yeah.
existing altered area. It looks like they're using black. Do you know
Yeah.
if the black comes chemical free? I know like there's arborist wood chips, so those are chemical free, but it would look very different than what's there now. Like everyone has their favorite color.
Yeah, black is so popular, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of dye and oils in that.
Mark, do you know if the black comes in a natural?
I don't know. I don't know that question. Yeah.
There's a
I should look into this topic because it is actually an interesting,
Yeah.
interesting topic because it's definitely used a lot.
Can you, it's, this area is, there's a lot of mulch here.
That's why I was wondering. Normally it's
yeah.
like, it's not the best thing, but there's a lot of mulch on this. It's beautiful, but there's a lot.
We could stipulate that in the order.
Well, I don't know. I just don't know if it exists. You know, this is existing condition. It's a highly landscaped lawn, you know, multi-million-dollar property. I don't know if the owner would be willing to use arborist wood chips, which is the only alternative I know of. Usually we would ask a homeowner, would you mind using arborist wood chips? Or if the area is natural and they're planning on creating a buffer, we would say in that buffer, we want you to use chemical-free wood chips. But I feel like, I mean, it's up to you, you're the commission, but I would feel like we're infringing a bit on the existing conditions by saying, if we had a product in mind, maybe I could do a Google search.
I've seen mulch mixed with compost that gets blacker.
Chemical-free black mulch.
You know,
Is the applicant on the call? I think he was supposed to call in. I'm not sure if he's there or not.
I
Manish
don't,
Patel.
I don't think so.
So I could try to call him if you wanted me to see if I get an answer quickly. Let me see if I can get him to answer.
this
Maybe
whole area
organic?
was cut, you know, so it's kind of reopens the whole thing being cut off clear.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Manish, I have you on speaker here with the Northborough Conservation Commission. Just wanted to ask you a question. Do you have any opposition to trying to use a mulch that doesn't have any dyes or chemicals that are used to treat it? Their concern is the amount of mulch that's around the ponds can definitely alter and have impacts to the water quality around the ponds.
As for my knowledge, we never used it. I didn't use it, and previous one they precaution on those one. We never used those one.
Okay, so I guess I mean they're wondering if they can condition that, or if you could just kind of pledge that that's what you want to do. I'm not sure how you want to kind of handle that, but they're definitely looking for some input from you, just because they don't want to restrict you too much. At the same time, they are heavily concerned about the amount of dyes that can be in wood mulch. So
No, we never use the wood mulch.
okay, so I guess so. I mean, in that sense, you'd be okay with them conditioning the fact that any mulching should be
Yeah,
okay.
supposed to be. Yeah, definitely. I don't mind about those one if they're going to be right on those things.
Great. All right. So we'll have the commission put that as a condition. Thank you so much.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, bye.
All right,
There you go.
thank you.
Oh.
Chemical-free mulch. I'll say chemical/dye-free.
All right. So Kelly got hers in there. Anybody else have any questions or comments here? I don't see any hands up from the public here.
I did see
Cassie,
some
any-
products that said organic mulch, and maybe if you can find the color he wants and get it ordered, he should be able to find something.
All right. Did you issue a violation letter?
Just a violation letter, yes.
So I would presume that the result of the violation letter is this NOI in front of us here.
Yes, I asked for an NOI by the January meeting.
Twofer, you like those. All right, so first step is to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the hearing for 44 Fisher Street.
Second,
Headed by Todd. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yep.
and I vote yes. All right, so we're going to move ahead with a vote on the NOI, order of conditions for Fisher Street with the, what do you have for requirements? We have the mulch requirement, right?
Yep, the
The,
mulch
uh,
requirement,
Chemical-free mulch.
our typical restoration protocols, which include
Yep.
the monitoring reports, and then an additional condition for monitoring for invasive species and removal.
Yes, okay, as we work through there. Okay, fine. Need a motion on this one, on the order of conditions.
I make a motion for 44 Fisher Street for order of conditions with the descriptions as stated prior.
For a second.
Second,
Seconded by Kelly Marston. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All
Thank
right,
you, and
thank you, Mark.
please thank Mr. Patel for his quick response.
All right. Gotta love those real-time decisions, you know? That's it.
Yes.
All right, cross that off. Just think we have left on the agenda, Mia. I mean, the one thing, the vice chair discussion, we need to have everybody here for that,
Okay.
for January, hopefully, on that.
Oh, I thought we elect whoever is not here.
We could do a rolling vice chair, like, sure, if you're not here, you know.
Todd,
Yeah.
you lucked out. You're here today.
Could
Wow,
nominate
it's my lucky day.
Justin. Right.
Yep, yeah. It's done, Justin.
He'll just quit. He'll quit the whole commission.
Right, that's right. Well, no commissioners. You wonder why. Well, it's profs they have for vice commissioners. What about the hazarded trees at Zero Whitney? What's that
Yeah,
all
you have to
about?
vote to spend $4,600 from the conservation fund. The trees are on conservation land. Limbs have been dropping. This abutter has been calling DPW directly. They have, and DPW has just been handling it. They go and they remove the limbs that fell and they clean it up, and they've, and now I guess the limbs are getting bigger and the trees are leaning more. So, because, our DPW director is also the tree warden. So he just evaluated the trees and said, no, they really got to go. And already got an estimate. So by the time it got to me, it was, these are already causing a problem. The crews have already been picking up after them. The trees have already been evaluated and I already have an estimate. So it was all packaged up in a little bow. So,
My only comment on that is, should we just be looking at a forestry plan for that section and get it harvested, and instead of the expenditure, but
yeah, you could go for CPC funding for that. I mean, sometimes it's a net if they get enough wood,
Right.
It doesn't cost anything. But the plan, you do have to pay to write the plan. We could get that, because it's not a, tree removal budget item. Maybe Todd, you could comment on that because you're on the CPC committee, but a lot of other towns, they pick a forest management plan and they apply for CPC funding for that.
If I had ever heard of that, I'd be happy to comment on it.
We talked about it last year because there was another site in Edmund Hill. And remember last year, Ball Street, Pisgah trees were falling, they had to be
I
removed.
remember the pool guy, yeah,
Yep, and then Edmund Hill, there was an abutter there as well.
but I don't remember any discussion of having CPC pay for any of it. That doesn't mean they can't.
You can't say like, give us $50,000 so we can remove trees for the next 10 years. That's too vague. But you can say like a forest management plan for this property.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I see what you're going with this. So yeah, you could, because it's management of the resource as opposed to maintenance, you could
That's right.
request funding through CPC for that. Not the question whether we ever done it before. We've not done it before, but I guess you theoretically could.
Yep.
I think that we really have to be proactive with forestry plans for all of the conservation-owned properties.
And
Timing though,
forest-
Tom, right? Isn't that an issue, the timing? If these are hazardous trees and now we're talking probably 6 to 9 months before we get that funding?
And that may be the case. I don't know how, hazardous they are, if it's really endangering somebody's house, then we should probably, expend the money and do it. But we've spent, I think it was $45,000 or $5,000 at one spot and another spot, now we're up to $15,000 of, conservation funds. So maybe we need to really, look at the forestry plan and get it enacted and then manage some of these trees from a forestry standpoint, not a emergency type thing.
I could ask for the cost estimate. Do you know how much forest management plans cost?
I don't. I'm kind of in the process of with the property I'm trying to buy. So
Maybe I can get some
I'm gonna
cost
make some
estimates,
inquiries this week.
because it's just Edmund Hill and Pisgah would be the two areas probably that we would look at. And Pisgah could extend to Green Street, the Green Street hillside.
Yeah,
But I
we'll-
can get some cost estimates. We
Definitely
might
do
even
that.
have it in the conservation fund. If it's only a few $1,000s, you could pay for the plans. And then if the plans cost money, you could go for CPC funding next year to execute the plans. And the plans won't be cut everything. The plans could say, leave it alone. Especially large areas. There's large areas on Pisgah, Tom, that aren't too immature.
Right.
But other areas they might find some things that could be
Yeah, I
managed.
forget what the Whitney Street property isn't that big. It's only,
It's part of Edmund Hill. It's
Oh.
one of the Edmund Hill properties. I can show you where it is actually on the town GIS.
You were on Whitney Street?
Find it. Okay, share my screen.
I didn't know that originally abutted to Edmund Hill.
Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the property. This is the abutter here that's getting hit. Let me move in. This is the property here that's getting hit. And this is Edmund Hill. So it's, this is the parking area. These are all ours.
Oh, okay. So we had another property that's off of Whitney Street that,
It was right here. Is this also 0 Whitney? That's 0 Overlock. That's where we had the trees removed last year.
right. But there's
then we-
also a conservation owned property on Whitney Street that's on the other side.
Yeah. Didn't even know that existed till last week.
Oh, I knew it was there.
We don't do anything with it. It's here. No. Just found it. No, that's not it.
But anyways, I thought that was what we were talking about when you had said Whitney Street.
Yeah, are there any hazardous trees there now, or have they been pretty much? Control.
So the arborist or the tree cutter is going to go out and get them. They have to come out once they've been reported. We have to cut them. So I'm not sure if he's actually gotten out. This was 2 weeks ago and they were gonna go out as soon as they could.
Who's paying for that?
You have to pay for it. That's what the vote is for, 4,600. Are you
So we
talking
have
about a
no
different
choice.
site?
We have no choice.
On the one that's on the agenda, just this one.
Right.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice. I mean, you could say no. You could say, no, we're not paying for it. We could stop the tree cutter if he hasn't gone out yet. And then if the tree falls on our house, you're liable for the damages.
So this is really a parallel plan. One is the short term of the $4,600 to take care of the hazardous trees, or the ones that have
Yeah.
already been reported, at the same time, kick off the whole forestry management process.
Yeah, so tonight's vote is just the 4,600 to pay for the trees, and then I can get some cost estimates for forestry management plans.
Vote to expend $4,600 removal of hazard trees from 0 Whitney Street, as have been reported to date, correct?
Yes, from the Conservation Fund.
I will make that motion.
Second,
Seconded by Kelly. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and Kelly, you were yes? Yep, you're muted.
I'm back. Yes.
Okay, you see yes, okay, and I say yes, okay. And you'll take the forest management plan action item and start moving forward with that?
Yep, it'll be on the January agenda.
Awesome.
The COCs, 10 Hillside Road and 11 Memorial Drive. You've seen them both?
Yep, both are septics, both have been installed, both are fully vegetated, stable, no observation, no violations observed.
So we need a motion to grant certificates of compliance for 10 Hillside and 11 Memorial Drive.
Okay, I make a motion for certificate of compliances for 10 Hillside Road and 11 Memorial Drive.
Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Kelly. Okay. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Issued. So we have 0 Lyman Street next, which is, we'll check the attendees here, make sure we have no questions from anybody in the audience. No questions. We have the 0 Lyman Street violation and an informal discussion at the same time, Mia, right?
Yes.
And then we also probably want to talk a bit about 93 Maynard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because that was on the minutes from last meeting.
Yeah, Mia and I took a look at it this past week.
Yep,
We
go ahead.
drove as far as we could up to the gate. So let's start with that. Let's start with 93
Okay.
Maynard Street. Any updates, Mia, to that?
No, but they're having some personal difficulties, so they've asked for some time. So I told them to remove, you saw that there's pallets and like a bar and they're like building a fence in the wetlands. I said, no, take it out. They said it was already there. I said, I never remember seeing a fence in the wetlands. I have no photos of a fence in the wetlands. You are not building a fence in the wetlands. Take it out. They have not taken out. There's still, I said, there's pallets in the stream. They're like, that's so they can walk there and build the fence. I was like, no, take it all out. But they have some really significant family problems, right? They have a very sick child. So they need some time.
Is activity frozen at the site? Are they not doing anything?
I mean, you and I visited last Friday and it looked the same as when I visited the week before.
So I understand the personal issues, but should we just at least, send a violation notice?
Sure, I can send a violation notice. All right, let me show you the pictures.
But just make sure you mail it so it comes after Christmas.
You can see it all right in one picture. This is the wetland flag. So if they're saying this was here before, I don't remember this being here before.
Yeah,
I remember a smaller gate here. They've rebuilt this in place. I do remember a gate here. And I remember these doors because I was like, they're kind of like close off to nothing, you know, you just walk around. And then this is the other side. I don't know if this is existing. The footings look old here, and it's not in the wetland on this side. But if you look, like this is a panel. Do you see how the panel goes down? It's not set on a bar. Whereas the other side, it's different. Like this is a different panel with these spiky things on the top and this pole. So if this was on the left, it shouldn't have been there. You know, the original permit for the house and the driveway showed no fence or gate anywhere near the wetlands.
Do we have any idea who flagged it? Who's done the flagging?
I think Goddard did, because they're planning on, they want to clear the whole side between the house and the combined driveway to the right. They want to clear that whole thing and put in a lawn. And I told them that would be an NOI. So they hired, I think they said they hired a wetland scientist and they hung flags. I think it was Goddard, but I'm not sure. And I haven't been asked to approve that line yet. I mean, that's the discussion we have to have because they said that they planned on extending this fence around the entire property. And I said, you can't have a fence in the wetlands.
Well, I think a violation letter at the very least is a start, and maybe includes part of A, after Christmas, and B, maybe drag out those skids. Let's get those skids out of there.
Does anyone remember if there was a fence here before? I have no photos of this area.
There was definitely something, but I couldn't tell you I mean, it didn't go, there was like a gate, but I couldn't tell how laterally extensive it went to either side.
I
There was
drove through
definitely
it. I
a
remember
fence
the
around the
gate.
whole property.
Yes.
I just pulled up the Oliver maps. I can't see. I'm on 2015. I don't see anything there. But I don't know if I'm looking at the right end of the property.
I thought it was just the two pillars in the gate originally.
Oh, there's no street view up there. No, there's no street view. And it's all treed. I can't see anything in the aerials. I mean, we have the permit for the original house and there's no fence or gate in that permit. There's the crossing. The driveway is a crossing.
2013-14, there was no gate. Because there's enough, the trees are unleafed. Sorry, my brain
So
is
you
not
can
working.
see.
Yes. But that's the only one that you can see it in.
Okay.
You can see the
Violation
pillars.
letter, what's going to be in the context of it? What's going to be in the body?
Just that it was reported to the commission at the November meeting. And then that staff visited the site and observed a fence being constructed in the wetlands, and as per our local wetlands bylaw, as per state law, there's no structures allowed within a wetland, and to remove it immediately, including the, what are they called, pallets.
So we want to take the pallets and the fencing out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there something being nailed into the tree on the other side of the stream? Are they trying to build like up and over? Almost looks like a tree house, maybe?
Maybe,
I don't know.
yeah, there is something there.
Deer stand.
I don't think so. I hope not.
I didn't see anything, but
Yeah,
that's
there's like
that
a
board
board.
there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Those are pretty skinny trees for a tree house.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, Ninja warrior course.
It could be a Ninja Warrior course, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's pieces of fencing down there on that pallet too.
So I drive by it every week, and there's been no movement.
And you have communication open up with them, Mia, right?
Yeah, they have an order of conditions for 90 West Main.
Okay. Is 90 West Main the one that's next to the, is that the two houses?
No, that's 144, 150.
Okay.
90 is the little blue house that's been demolished. They're putting in the
Okay.
mixed use.
There's still no sign at 144, 150. There's no DEP sign.
Today?
I did look today. I was looking every other day.
Okay,
Nice
I
to
wrote
back.
to the not the chiropractor, the contractor on Friday.
Chiropractor could take care of it too.
Yeah. I asked I reached out to the contractor on Friday, and he said he would get it up there.
It may be up. I haven't seen it today, so.
Okay.
All right, so violation will be going out, and we'll just, I guess we have enough eyes on that side anyway, people driving by it, so. 0 Lyman Street.
We have a lot of people. I think the 4 attendees are all here for that.
We have, okay,
This is one of the Westboro State Hospital sites. We have Chauncey Hall, which is being demolished with the two pole barns under determination of applicability. Then we have an order of conditions for the power plant. And this is the access road to the rear of the power plant that leads up to the tanks. So if we could get those 4 attendees in, I think they want to participate.
okay.
April is the wetland scientist, Dan is the engineer, and James and Susan are both from DCAM.
All being brought in. Okay,
Evening.
who is that? Is that Dan LaFrance speaking?
It was, yes.
Okay, I see you, and I see James Matz, and I see April Dorosky.
Yep.
And I see Susan, is it Rooch?
It's Rook. Thank you for asking, Mr. Young.
Okay. All right.
Evening, everyone. James Matz here, DCAM.
All right, so we're familiar with the site. You know, we've been out there, like Amy was saying, with this NOI. There's always the conditions open in that one, and so forth. So, what's going on there, Mia? And first, Kelly, are you aware of this from the Westboro side too?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a double violation, and one in Westboro that went over, one in Northborough that went over into Westboro. So you guys are meeting tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sherry Wittes is the conservation agent in Westboro. She and I met with DCAM on site last week. So the week of Thanksgiving, prior to the week of Thanksgiving, they were trying to release the pond that had been built up by beaver activity. And it was a slow release. They put in a lot of controls and some sheeting to protect the overflow. It was done with a sandbag wall the beaver material was slowly removed and the water level was lowered so that the road was exposed. And that was by a water release plan that was submitted by Dan at Fuss and O'Neill and approved. And then the next step was to, once the culvert was exposed, to evaluate the condition, because in the original order of conditions, it just says install erosion controls and inspect and maintain the culvert and restore its functionality. And so then later the beavers created an impoundment on the road and raised the water level even more. So that release had to happen before we could even get back to what was required in the order of conditions. So Dan and DCAM worked with us to create a release plan that was approved. The next step was to evaluate the culvert and restore the culvert, at least to some level of functionality, to lower the pond even more, then install the erosion controls, then start driving up and down the road to break down the tanks. So that initial water release went very well. I was there once or twice a week, usually twice a week, just to keep an eye on it, took lots of photos. It goes into Westboro, goes across an old cornfield that is now a wet meadow, and then over into Westboro. And Westboro, I visited Westboro and Westboro every time I just walk over, it's right there. And both sides look great. And then the week of Thanksgiving, I visited the site on Monday, both sides look good. I usually visit the site on Thursdays. So I came back the following Thursday, about 10 days later, and the culvert had blown. They had stuck some wood and pipes in there to try to dislodge the material. The material was dislodged, and it was about 3 feet of standing water over 7 acres, just millions of gallons of water was blown through the culvert, scoured the wetlands, and there's deposits in the Northboro wetlands and the Westboro wetlands. And so I wrote a violation notice requiring an immediate site stabilization plan, an impact report, and a restoration plan. The site stabilization plan was due by tonight's meeting. We did meet in the field last week, and that stabilization plan has been put in place, which includes the scraping of some of the stockpiled beaver material so it doesn't further migrate, and then the installation of a turbidity curtain and some jute netting. So that initial part, the turbidity curtain, is already installed, that's been inspected. The next step is to install, scrape some of that beaver material, install jute netting and the mulch tubes. Once we get to there, we still need an impact report to assess the full impacts. That's it. I believe when April is here, I required a wetland scientist with at least 2 years experience in wetland restoration to evaluate the impacts and create a long-term restoration plan. And then you guys will have to determine if this violation that I've issued is sufficient, along with the requirements that I'm requiring are sufficient. You'll have to ratify, that you agree with what I've done, or put more conditions in place if you feel an enforcement order is necessary. And then once we get the mulch tubes in place, we'll be back to where we are at the order of conditions, where people are driving up and down the road to get to the tanks and dismantling the tanks, where there'll be new conditions now for that impact report and restoration plan. So right now we're working just under a violation notice.
The beaver discussion is separate, the informal discussion.
Oh, the
Separate but
beaver,
related,
yeah, so the beaver item went on there before the violation, because the reason we have these issues is from the beavers. And during the initial release, the approved release that was going very well to expose the road, the initial release, nightly, the beavers were coming back and damming up all the little openings, and they were losing their overnight drainage time. So again, even now, we have multiple spots where we have these little outlets have been carved on the Westboro side, the Northboro side, where it's almost like you want to put a neon sign to the beavers that's like, rebuild right here, so, and there's so many beavers, it's like a beaver subdivision. So I really feel like we're going to be in the same place again in the spring if we don't do something about these beavers.
You said the site stabilization plan is in place.
The turbidity curtain has been put in place.
Yep.
The second step of the stabilization plan was to scrape the excess beaver material, because there was a lot of it. We don't want that freezing and thawing and washing downstream up there on the road. And then to install some jute netting to stabilize those exposed slopes, and then the mulch tubes, those 14-inch highway mulch tubes along the road.
So I guess
That's correct. Agree here.
Question is, where are we with those 4 items?
So beginning today, and our current report from the on-site contractor, between today and probably through early Wednesday, the Beaver dam debris sediment that's on the road will have been removed. They did begin to install silt fencing on both sides to be fortified, if you will, with the 14-inch diameter filter socks. So that work should be done on or about Wednesday. And at that point, we'll call Mia to come out for the second site visit. That's the current schedule.
Okay. All right. And what will that, presuming you get all those done, what will that leave to be done?
Well, what that will leave to be done is the restoration that my understanding, and Mia, please jump in, is that at that point, in addition to the impact report, which will be submitted to Mia this Friday, the 17th, as agreed upon, in addition to that will be the restoration plan that will be forthcoming.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mia?
Yeah, I do want to share some photos so you guys can see the extent of the damage. It's not a catastrophe. It's not
No.
Aaron Brockovich isn't coming.
And me, if we want to get to, go ahead and show the pictures, but we also want to bring in April too, because she walked from the culvert all the way into the Westboro pump station. And I think it's important to get, that would be important tonight to get her input as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you can see this was more of like a swampy wetland. These channels have been incised and we have some sediment deposits. You can kind of see more sediment deposit here. The channel goes to the right and to the left.
Left, right there, yes.
We've got deposits over here too. So it goes in both. This is the one to the left where it goes into the field. And then there's a channel all along the field into Westboro. Oh, that's just our new construction sign that's coming. Let me get another, I have more photos from the previous day. And the other thing too is you're going to notice the photos to the left here where we're starting. This looks bad. This is actually the approved side. This is just the drained pond. This is normal. They were just lowering the level of the pond. This is all going to grow in. That's rich, organic, undisturbed wetland soil that's going to grow in. It's going to be covered in plants in the spring. This is the site access road. You can see the beaver debris. There's some here too.
And that's the beaver debris that's being removed or has been removed today through tomorrow.
There's more kind of in here, right, as you're coming down the slope. And this is the area that's going to be stabilized with jute netting. You can see the deposits here. There's more deposits in this channel. The water level is a little lower this day, so you can see more. You can see that sandy soil, the bright sandy soil that wasn't there before. You can see this channel, it's either been cut or has just been scoured. And once that scouring starts, it's just going to get worse. This is more of those deposits. This is the culvert. It's flowing. There's tadpoles.
Yeah, bullfrog tadpoles at that.
Yeah. This is a outlet from across the street that was clear that day. This is the Westboro side. So you can see that same sandy, bright soil. And it's also here in the bottom of the channel. And this channel used to be much more flat. You can see it's been cut by the flow. And you can see the flow also came up and over the sides of the channel. And these impacts are in Westboro. These will be, I just wanted to show you the extent. Westboro Conservation will be dealing with this. They're aware of it and they're dealing with it tomorrow. So this is an example of, this is a beaver impoundment that was breached. And there's sandbags here. And the beavers have left this one alone. The beaver impoundments up in Northborough look the same way. The culvert channel is the same way. The beavers are just going to come back in and you can even see their little paw prints in the mud. They just come in and do every night and just pack it back up. This is the other site, so I can stop here. That's the Chauncey Hall site, which is going well.
So April, tell us about the impact report.
Sure.
Could
So
I just interrupt for a moment if possible, Chairman Young? DCAM wanted to give a little bit of an overview of where we are before we turn to our consultants. So if I could, I'd have our environmental project manager, James Matz, give a little bit of an introduction.
Right, thank you, Susan. So I'm pretty much going to, I think for the most part, repeat what Mia said. We received notice on the late afternoon, December 2nd, a Thursday, of a release of sediment from the culvert beneath the access road in Northborough. DCAM Environmental and team and members of our construction team and our facilities management maintenance team met on site first thing Monday morning, the 6th, to assess site conditions and try and gain an understanding of how the sediment release occurred. I will say that we are still vetting that out and running that to ground. Our understanding is that the Beaver Dam was removed from downstream, immediately downstream of the culvert and immediately upstream of the culvert. And then due to the force of water, the sediment release occurred after Thanksgiving. So that would be early last week, right? The culvert is still, a vast majority of it is still blocked. So the culvert was not cleaned out because we were not permitted to do that. So a vast majority of the culvert is still plugged. There is an opening, if you will, in the sediment that it does allow for some water to be released. But again, I think it appears to us at least, and again, we're still running this to ground. That's why we are going to submit our impacts report on Friday. But it appears to us that with the force of water behind the sediment causes a release of deposition of sediment in the just downstream of the Northborough culvert. And we'll bring in April to add a few more details to that.
Before April goes, I want to say that I was on the site and I asked, specifically, did equipment enter the wetland resource area? And the contractor said, yes, they took a small excavator into the pond side. They picked up a large tree, dead tree, and jammed it into the culvert until the culvert blew. The tree broke in half. They picked up another one of the broken pieces and continued to jam it into the culvert and put it in there and wiggled it around with the excavator until it blew. And I said that was in complete, confrontation with what the water release plan had said. The water release plan said that the culvert would be evaluated and released slowly. And I also commented what a pity it was, since then they had taken such great care to release so slowly and carefully and put in such controls and protections to protect that area during the initial release.
So Mia, that is actually, I want to be very clear, that is news to us. The contractor has not told us that. We were led to believe otherwise. So we take that very seriously.
Well, DCAM was on site. James and Paul were on site and Jason were there when the contractor explained this to me, and April and Dan.
I don't remember him. I certainly would have heard that. I don't remember him saying at the time, with the day when we met.
He said it in response to you saying that it was the force of the water. He said, no, it wasn't the force of the water. It was me sticking the pole in there and wiggling it around.
Okay.
Well, I will just say, I was not there. We are not taking issue, but I can tell you that James did not hear that, or he would have reported it to me. So I'm sorry. It does appear there's a little communications gap. And obviously we take that very seriously. Our contractors are required to follow the contract, which requires them to follow all of the conditions. So you can trust that we will be dealing with that separately as a contract issue. But we take our environmental commitments extremely seriously. I joined DCAM about 2 years ago to serve as the Director of Environmental Services after there had been like a little bit of a lapse in DCAM really having a higher level person in charge. James was hired shortly before me. I'm shocked to hear that, and I am, frankly, outraged, and I'm sorry that somehow during the site visit it was not fully understood by DCAM staff. But now we better understand where you're coming from, so I just wanted to address that this is the first that I'm hearing that the contractor deliberately did something in contravention of our contract and of the order. So with that, James, I'd turn it back if you have anything before handing it over to April as far as her impact reviewed to date.
No, I don't think I have anything additional. We met on site on the Tuesday morning, the 7th, and we laid out the stabilization plan that was put into writing, that was submitted on the 9th, and Mia approved it. Went to the site on Friday the 10th to observe the silk curtain had been installed and to take a look at that and give approval for that, and then release the stop work order. So that's where we are up to date currently this evening. So I would like to turn it over to April. If someone could share, allow April to share her screen, because we have a plan and we want to put up and then have April walk us through what she saw when she walked from the culvert all the way to the Westboro pump station.
Thanks, James. I see my access to share my screen,
Okay.
so I will just do that right now. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
And Mia, you gave a good overview of what happened on site with your photos and the descriptions. I saw the same things. So here is just an overview of what the site looks like. These wetland lines are approximated. They were delineated as part of the project, though. These hatched kind of brown areas are beaver debris, and the water is flowing this way. So this is the inlet and this is the outlet. Water is flowing generally kind of southeast. The bank lines are picked up a little bit, shown in blue. There's this main channel at the outlet, and then also that other channel that's a bit smaller that's flowing into this system as well. This black hatched area is another area of beaver debris that appears to be unconsolidated and looks like it was washed out during kind of the culvert release event. And these more beige areas are the sediment deposit areas that Mia was pointing out. And so the overview that was given is precisely what I saw. Reviewed this inlet area, and this impoundment is now dewatered. That beaver debris does remain, and if you look at this photo over here, you can see debris, this upstream area. Looking downstream, here's the view. This is the head wall of the culvert, and I generally outlined where that beaver debris along the banks looks, is lined up. And these banks are much more steep. That's why we are recommending the jute mats. Thinking about the sediment deposit areas, the sediment was defined coarser material, lighter. It's pretty obvious this fell out because higher velocity, the larger material falls out first. So here's one area, and that's this smaller triangle, and this other area is a bit larger, and it continues and it fans out almost, you think about an outwash plane, and it's this large area here. So that's the larger sediment that was released as part of that water coming out of the culvert. And I followed the channel along here as well and looked at the banks, and I didn't see any obvious signs of large material that fell out. There's definitely, as the water flows down this channel, I'm sure smaller sediment was, falling out during that time, but nothing that was as obvious as these larger sediment deposits that I located with the GPS. Here's a zoomed in photo of that beaver debris outwash that I was talking about. It's less consolidated, and it's right next to the sediment deposit area and next to that smaller channel area. So as it lost momentum, it just fell out in that area, and it's maybe a foot or so deep. And in terms of the impacts, that in the immediate vicinity of the culvert, those were the impacts that I had observed. This photo over here is another shot just looking at the culvert inlet, and you can get a better idea of how steep the banks are. This is just all beaver debris. It's boulders, large woody debris, smaller woody debris, and mud that was packed. Are there any questions?
Not for me. Pretty concise. So, I guess Susan or James on this one. So we think we know what caused this event to take place, right? Whether it's a renegade contractor, or it's a bunch of beavers working in cohorts with the contractor. I guess, and we have some steps here to resolve that, right? Which we heard. The other question I have is, how do we prevent this going forward? How do we prevent this from being another event in a month or 2 months or whatever?
Well, I think the how we prevent this from occurring during the course of the project is the fact that we're going to have the silt curtain now, and the jute netting that is installed on the steeper slopes. So I think that should prevent another release of sediment in the future, in the short term, until this project is done. And then from there, we'll present come before the commission with a restoration plan via an NOI to propose the additional actions that we've already discussed, which includes the removal of the sediment. The means and methods, of course, we don't have yet, but that's going to be in the restoration plan. So I think that's both short and long term. Susan, do you have anything to add?
Well, I do, and in one sense, it kind of crosses over into the next discussion. But if you'll entertain it, we are undertaking, after different field conversations with Mia and Sherry, DCAM is contemplating undertaking a larger action to deal with the devastation, really, that the beavers have borne upon what used to be 7 or 8 acres of wetland, of upland, that have now been very wet for a long time. I was able to receive preliminary approval for a project to do that. There are a lot of steps we need to advertise for and hire a contractor to help us design it, and to prepare a permit application to present to the commission, of course. But with the goal of bringing that area back to its prior condition, and to trying to address the overrunning of the beavers in this area. So as part of that, we might like to think out loud with you about whether or not we might move the restoration work from the damage caused by this event into that project. I mean, one way or the other, we're going to get it, obviously do any restoration that is required. But we are contemplating this other project. It will not be done by the current project team. It will be under James' lead as a project manager, and we will be contracting with a wetlands firm through our statewide contract, and we will be having them have as a sub a beaver taker. So we are trying to think of this in the comprehensive way. I think that Mia suggests it would be helpful both to us as a property owner and to the town, and the interest that the commission seeks to protect.
Interesting. Good. Mia,
Concerned about time. I know these things take time. If that sediment is allowed to freeze and stays there over the winter, and then in the spring, now you may not even physically be able to get down there during the soft thaw, then we have plants starting to grow in it, and then we have to start weighing, well, do we damage the plants? Do we scrape? I really think that sediment needs to come out this season.
We agree. And I'm sorry if I suggest otherwise. I meant really the longer term restoration plan, which I think your prior communication had indicated should wait
planting
a little bit later.
Planting should wait. Nothing will grow right now. But there's also the question of under what permit shall we work? So right now there's nothing in place. We have the stabilization plan in writing and approved for the installation of the curtain, mulch tubes, and jute netting. But we have nothing in place requiring a restoration plan. So I would like to either, I know state agencies are not fond of enforcement orders, but an enforcement order does really clarify the commission's position of exactly what you want, that you require a restoration plan, or you can just write a letter saying that you require a amended notice of intent for the restoration work, and you need it by a certain date. I'd like the commission to consider the beaver removal. I know if this was a private agency, I know, for example, like CSX appreciates an enforcement order. I don't know if they'd say they would appreciate it, but an enforcement order is the tool they need to go to their funding office and say, the Northborough Conservation Commission has issued an enforcement order for the removal of beavers, and then it is funded and the beavers are removed. So I just need the commission to consider, I don't think we should continue to move forward with an agreement at this meeting that a restoration plan will be submitted. I think we need either a letter or an enforcement order as to what the commission expects next, including removal of sediment this season, restoration plan by a certain date, and what the commission wants to do about the beavers.
Well, if I may, okay, I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Just one second, James. But so we have the site stabilization plan, which includes, several steps. Some are taking place, some are scheduled to take place. That is already in place and happening.
It's happening right now.
That's coming underneath the the existing project as a remediation item on that.
Yeah, because the site needs to be stabilized immediately.
All that's going to take place, the scraping, the jute mats, the mulch tubing, all that's going to happen.
Yep, that gets you almost back to where the order was, except for the restoration and beaver removal.
I'm sorry, James, go ahead.
Well, we don't need DCAM does not require an enforcement order to fund a project. We believe that it would be appropriate for the commission to issue in writing a request for an amended order that would include or consist of the removal of sediment this season, a date for submittal of a restoration plan that would include the removal of the beavers. DCAM believes that this could be managed under an amended NOI.
So if I could just elaborate on that, though.
Please.
The amended order would be the order for the demo project. And what we're suggesting, and I think that perhaps in whatever format the commissioners decide is appropriate, to say that an restoration plan is required by X date, but to give the flexibility to DCAM whether we want to have that as part of the current project or whether we want to file a new NOI before that time that would include it. I don't know if you can afford to allow us that flexibility. But I will tell you that I presented this matter and received approval for the project and for funding this morning. There's just steps that we have to take then to get that in place. And we agree with Mia, the faster we can move, the better. And that is our aim, to shorten, any timelines that we can shorten, we will do so. But we do recognize there's not something that we can do, next week, but we're going to be expediting and moving as quickly as possible. So if that's helpful.
Yeah, what kind of timeline are you thinking about?
I'd like the sediment removed next week. I'd like the immediate removal of the sediment. We know where it is. April got down there and walked the whole channel. I'm pretty sure Westboro is going to say the same thing. I don't know if you're aware, Kelly Marston, our commissioner, is also a commissioner on the Westboro Conservation Commission.
We are aware.
Okay. So, Sherry and I are working together on this, and I think I don't know what the sediment is going to need to be removed in Westboro, but Northboro, we definitely have sediment that needs to be removed this season prior to it freezing, which is in the next week or two. So I do want to see the sediment removed prior to the next meeting. As far as getting a new NOI, we do prefer to have one order of conditions on one site, because orders of conditions, the commission holds the owner responsible. So having two is kind of irrelevant to us, where it's just the same owner. So we're going to be holding you responsible for both. And the state feels the same way. Mass DEP likes to have one order.
So that means we would need to probably then wait to address the beavers. And that's the problem for us from a logistical matter. We're ready, willing, and able to move forward with the project to address this bigger issue and to get that moving.
And you have to do that under a new NOI?
We're going to do it under a separate contract. So yes, we're not going to have the folks that were involved in this incident involved going forward. So we're going to have a separate contract. It's not going to be done through part of the demolition project. So, that's just logistical for us. And what we could do is to get the design done and bring the NOI to the commission, and wait till that project is done to kind of pull the trigger. We certainly could have the existing project do the restoration in the springtime, and then just keep our projects separate if that's going to work better for the commission.
Yeah, whoever does the work is up to you. As far as deadlines go, our January meeting is sooner. It's January 10th. So the deadline for that is December 30th. So that's right around the corner. We wouldn't expect realistically a new NOI by that time. So I would like to see.
We couldn't do that by that time.
No,
we got to get a contract and designer on board.
But if we break out so the three items are sediment removal, restoration as in replanting, any regrading and replanting. And then the third item is the beavers. I do think that the sediment removal needs to happen in the next week or two.
We agree. And the contractor is prepared to do that sediment removal once you come down and looked at the other items that they owe on the jute netting and so forth.
Okay, so we would need a plan showing the exact location of the sediment with notes as to what is being removed, and then it has to be under the supervision of April or another wetland scientist with at least 2 years experience in wetland replication. And the commission has to approve that for the immediate removal of the sediment.
Okay.
I think there's a fourth issue there.
Okay.
You still have a partially plugged culvert that if it's not addressed, we're going to go right back to the same thing. And there maybe needs to be some temporary beaver deterrent on the upside of the head wall to try to prevent this from happening again. Twice, you're not going to be able to get up to do your tank project.
The existing order requires that the culvert is cleared and maintained so that we don't have these constant builds and releases. So that's still in place. Thanks for pointing that out, Tom, is that we still do need that report about the condition of the culvert and how you're going to clear it. And then as far as the beavers, I agree. That's part of the beaver removal and beaver deterrent We don't want to end
I'm
up
just
back in the same
thinking
place.
If I know our DPW has done some of the mesh up at the head wall to try to prevent the beavers from getting into the culvert and plugging the culvert. They're still going to plug the mesh, but at least it's not inside of the culvert. And that might be part of the short term so that the culvert can be maintained and it doesn't flood the whole area again.
It's an open bottom box culvert. I mean, maybe Dan could speak if you allowed Dan to speak to that, but I do think that the water level right now, and if the culvert were fully cleared, I don't think the beavers would even be able to, well, they definitely could, but I don't think they would block it up again. Beavers don't, they like areas where there's just a small opening. This is such a large opening.
I don't know. There's a culvert down the street from my father-in-law's that's like 6 feet and they keep plugging it up right in the inside of it.
Wow.
Fill the whole
Well,
thing up.
that's what they did with this one, but it seems
They
like
did
over
it
a
over
pretty
a
significant
course of-
period of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a really significant period of time it got plugged.
Right. I'm absolutely amazed at a 3-foot high, 150-yard long beaver dam. I've never seen that. So
Yeah, the entire
they plugged
top
up
of the
that
road.
culvert, but good. So I think that was over a pretty significant period of time.
You're industrious,
So
if
what-
nothing else.
So if I could, I just want to make sure I've got the schedule of deliverables. This is important for us, obviously. So I'll have the impact report submitted to both commissions, Kelly's interest as well, as agreed upon. So this Friday, the 17th. And concurrent with that, somewhat, you're requesting us to submit a plan to remove the sediment, right? And you obviously much sooner than later. So the content of this plan, brief memo, 1 or 2 pages with a plan showing, or describing means and methods, how we're going to do it, and a plan showing where we're going to do it.
Yes,
Something
yeah,
like
because we
that.
don't want an excavator driving down there
Right.
and
Well,
digging,
no, it's going to
So
either
exactly
be,
what you're using.
yeah, it's either going to be the handwork and/or other means that we discussed in the field previously.
They discussed possibly using a vac truck.
Vac
parked up on the
door,
road.
yeah, it's a vac door. It's a huge wet dry vac, and it'll with the hand shovel there, the shovels, it just sucks it right up the hose. So we can do that. The vehicle's parked on the access road. So, and that kind of cuts down more on the back and forth and the trampling in and out.
And if you want to address the culvert, if you have that vac truck out there, you have a curtain in place. And you want to get Dan probably to comment on that is because I know you've got a metal sheet over the top. I don't want your equipment falling through a hole.
Well, we won't be having the vac door parked over. I don't want to get into a whole lot of the nitty gritty details. We won't have that vac door parked over that ramp.
But if you wanted to clean the culvert out at the same time, that could be
Right.
included in there.
But it's a good sized diameter hose with a lot of force, suction force, and we can actually, with a poker, loosen it up and suck that right up the hose as well.
Yeah.
But let us put some thought into it, because as you know, that material is submerged. Now this is a wet dry vac, but let us put a little bit more thought into that before, I get too committal here. But it's kind of like,
You're talking the plan, James? The plan?
I'm sorry?
You're talking, put some thought into the plan?
Into the sediment removal plan, yes.
Right. So when can you get that done? Can you get that done by the 17th? Concurrent with the impact report?
I think we need it done by then, because we
Okay.
need to get the sediment removed the following week.
Okay.
We're talking 2 or 3 pages here. We're not talking the gospel.
Okay. Well, that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do. How we're going to do it, and bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
Susan, are we good with the 17th for both plans? I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
17th for both plans, and I know that Mia had made something earlier that she wanted the sediment removed before the next meeting.
Right.
The next
Agreed.
meeting is January 10th.
We can certainly have a plan for picking up those areas of sediment. But Mia suggested now we consider using the Vector truck for actually cleaning out the box culvert. And I don't think we've discussed that in full. So
Yeah,
no matter
that's not
what,
required.
we'll give you the plan that you need by Friday for sure. And I think Dan was trying to add something, and one of us was talking. Dan, did you want to add something?
Only to say that, as far as clearing the culvert, and what kind of equipment could be used for that, is really something we'd have to actually speak with the contractor about. And, so we need to take that one back to them and work on a solution to that. But, can certainly say that, cleaning up the downstream deposits can be done as handwork if nothing else. So, there can be 2 tracks there, but we're going to need to confirm with them exactly how they want to proceed. And we'll
Right, and
memorialize that and send it around.
With Dan and us to make sure that they follow the rules, but under the contract, there are certain means and methods, decisions that they can make. So.
So plan by 12/17,
For
Yeah.
impact report and sediment removal.
and then sediment removal by 110. That's a problem?
I'm sorry, sediment removal by when?
For the next meeting, 110.
Oh, yes, before 110, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sediment is removed, completely removed
sorry.
by January 10th.
Yeah, it's just a little hard to hear you, Mr. Young, at least on my end.
I'll go through this one more time. 3 items. Item 1, impact report, 12/17. Item 2, sediment removal plan, 12/17. Item 3, sediment removed by 110.
Yes,
Agree.
agree.
Good with that, Mia?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then we have discussion, I guess, around the beaver removal and the culvert report. Is that different? The culvert report's different, right?
The culvert is in the existing order. And the
Oh, it's in the
existing order
existing order.
requires, so we have something in writing requiring already,
That's done.
an assessment of the culvert and a plan, they can continue with that work. It's the replanting in the spring and the beavers. We need a
This one
timeline and a method.
where the state would like to have a new NOI, and you're looking at an amended NOI.
Yeah, I think either
or
one's
vice
fine.
versa.
Yeah, at Mass DP and us, we usually prefer to do everything under one order, but we have sites with two orders.
Yeah, and honestly, and I think I'm not saying anything anyone doesn't know, but under the state statutes and rules, there's no requirement that DCAM remove the beavers. It really is a separate project that we are planning to undertake after different discussions with Mia and Sherry and internally, that it is a good move for us to make. It's really not part of this demolition project where demolition contractors were hired to take down the building. So we are going to be doing that separately under, a separate project number and separate funding and separate contractor to design and oversee it.
Separate NOI.
So, certainly, if you want to keep the limited restoration that needs to be done, I'm not saying the restoration of these particular issues, we could keep them under the existing OOC if you have a preference for that. We were thinking, because the contractor may be done its demolition work, that it might make sense for us to carry that over, but it's up to you how you want to structure that.
I'm okay with doing a separate NOI if that works, better for DCAM. And it's a separate contractor. I don't see any reason why we can't do a separate one going forward.
So the NOI is we can all agree the NOI for the restoration plan. And that would be by the February meeting. And the restoration plan is planting, so it has to be by the March meeting. That would be okay too, if we understand your funding and you need to get a contractor to make the restoration plan. I'll just leave that blank for now. But the beavers, I am very concerned. Beaver removal does not have to be done under an NOI. We do those under an emergency certification. And I do think to avoid us being in the same exact position again next month, I do think the beavers need to be removed immediately. This is causing damage. So the beaver activity has caused there was a human element in there too, but it did cause damage to the wetlands. And long term, I want to say, if you don't want to maintain this culvert and you don't want to maintain the beavers after these tanks are removed and you want to let this area, I'm trying to work with someone at DCAM, trying to remember her name, as to who owns these properties long term, because we're going to be management partners. We have trails up there. That's a whole nother issue. But if that agency, say it's USDA or it's MDAR, not USDA, the Department of Ag, or say it's Mass Wildlife, and they want that culvert to be ripped out and they want the beavers to run free, that's fine. But for now, where we need to get up to that access road, the access road has to be maintained.
So, I'm a little, some of the things you're saying are making me have questions. I think that our plan is to engage a consultant, including wetland expertise, because we think it's relevant to the removal of the beavers, as well as the sort of the overall restoration of that upland area. So, that's how we're currently planning to proceed.
What's
That's
the
what we're
timeline
thinking
for
about.
that? What's the timeline for that?
Well, I can't give you a tight timeline right now, but we have to do competitive bidding, which will take a couple of weeks. We then have to do contracting, which takes a little bit of time to get the bonds and different things back and forth. So we're going to be trying to expedite that as quickly as we can, but it will take a little bit of time.
Susan, more or less than 4 months?
I think it'll take us probably about 6 to 8 weeks to get a contract. I'm sorry, to get that. So a couple of weeks for a couple, maybe 3 weeks, and it's a holiday time to get the advertising out. And then we have to look at, the responses. So maybe a week or two to pick one of the contractors, and then try to get it going as soon as thereafter. But the going then is the coming up with the design and preparing, the different applications and NOI, as well as the beaver taking permits. So I would think, I don't know, James or Dan, if you have any thoughts, but I would, when you say within 4 months, do you mean to have all the beavers gone?
I'm saying plus or minus. Which side of 4 months would it be delivered to? Less than 4 months or more than 4 months?
Do you mean the NOI or the end product of the beavers being fully addressed and the restoration work that we want to do on the property done?
I would say that we're actually moving forward with the implementation.
I think we would be starting to have the consultant move forward within 6 to 8 weeks. That would be our goal. And then the work to go on after that. I mean, I got approval for the project this morning, where it's sort of very much in internal design to get the pieces going. And I would like to be able to give you a more specific timeline, but the timeline itself is under development. James, any thoughts? Because you've done a lot of this contracting before. Am I fairly representing what we could do on an expedited basis?
I think so. I mean, the schedule that Susan's representing is really the best we can do. It really is. And that's really push, 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 push. So I think the schedule she's presenting, I agree with.
Who's going to keep the beavers from blocking up the road this week?
The
The
demolition
same-
contractor owns that road for the remainder of the project,
Okay.
and just so that everyone's aware of timelines. The contract, there's been an extension to it, but the original substantial completion was sometime in March, so they own the road through, I think with the time extension that we've given them thus far, they own the road through, I think, mid-April. So, if nothing else, demolition of the water tanks themselves is probably 4 to 6 weeks away, just because they have to, do some site preparation up there, get their building permits. The state building official that's going to sign off on this is gone basically through the end of the year. So it's probably January before they're even doing anything up on the hill anyway. And they own, they're going to be using that road actively through that course of
Yeah.
time. So
That fits with the original timeline. We love the frozen road. That's what we were hoping for. But in the meantime, like, is somebody going out there and as the beavers are patching up the holes, is someone opening those holes again almost on a daily basis?
they're still working to get, the erosion controls back out and things like that. So they have parts of the crew, whether it's the demolition contractor or some of their subcontractors, running, going through that area on a daily basis and checking it out and making sure that everything's maintained in a usable condition and keeping eyes on the turbidity curtain and everything else.
Okay.
And we've made that expectation clear with them that, they need to maintain this.
And we will review that with them again tomorrow, but it's our DCAM's expectation and understanding that that's being kept clear. And we do have a resident engineer on site, and we will ask him for daily confirmation that the contractor's doing that. As well, of course, of Fuss and O'Neill on their frequent visits to the site.
If the culvert gets blocked and it starts to fill again, we don't want people to say, oh, I don't know who's responsible. We want to keep that culvert clear. We want to keep the levels down, and we don't want to have to organize another release.
Agree.
The contractor is responsible, correct?
Can you repeat that, Mr. Young? Again, I had a little trouble hearing you.
Isn't the contractor responsible for maintaining the road access and the culverts?
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
The contractor is responsible, and Fuss and O'Neill is the project monitor for different parts of the orders of conditions and so forth. And of course, on a site like this, we have a DCAM representative on site, the resident engineer who traverses the site and can provide, feedback to us as well.
This is the same contractor that was involved with ramming the tree into the culvert.
Yes, sir.
But also the
certainly
same
is.
contractor that did a really nice job on the initial release. So,
I mean, he's going to be managed. That's all. That's your role, I think, right? I mean, he's going to be managed.
there was some
Correct.
breakdown in communication because, I went out
Fine,
and
right,
I
that's
said,
history now, so
why
now
was
it's a
this
matter of
done?
going forward.
Yeah, I said, I don't understand why I didn't get the culvert plan. And they said, what culvert plan? I said, the one that was like DCAM and Fuss and O'Neill knew that a culvert plan was coming, but the contractor didn't seem to know that a culvert plan was coming. And so I think they thought, I don't know. I don't know what they thought. but-
I will tell you, we have 2.5-hour project meetings on this every Monday. And I can tell you things were communicated. And I guess this is a communications breakdown, right? I don't think there was lack of communication from us and from Fuss and O'Neill to the contractor about what has to be done and in what order. I'm a little speechless, so I'll stop.
Well, stuff happens, right? So now it's a matter of not letting it happen again. So
Agree.
here we go. we have some dates, right? We talked about those dates around what we know about, which is the impact report, the sediment removal plan, and the sediment removed by 110. We have those dates in there. We need some discussions around what's the deliverable for the I'll call it the Beaver plan. Okay, what's the plan for the, what's the date? Will we see that? Would that be January too aggressive? Sounds like it might be. February reasonable?
You said the Beaver plan is going to be part of the new NOI?
I don't have a preference. I just want to see
Yeah.
it moving. I don't care
Beavers,
if it's NOI
yeah.
or a matchbook cover or what. Let's just do it. Let's move
Yeah.
forward.
Beavers don't have to be part of an NOI. The planting plan should be part of either an amended order or an NOI.
I think, based in part on what I'm hearing tonight, it might make sense to have the replanting as part of an amended order of conditions, if that's the way the commission wants to go as part of this existing project, the demo project. And that will do the separate project as the beaver removal. As I've said, that's going to be a separate project and contract. So we were thinking there might be a benefit to moving the restoration over to our project, but why don't we just let it be where it is, which is under the existing NOI? I think that'll be more simple for implementation.
So an amended order for restoration plan by what date? We can work with you because the planting, like I said, we can't plant anything right now. So what date could we get an amended order, a request for an amendment from you?
So April and Dan, how long do you think it would take for you to get us some recommendations so we could do and help us put together an amended order of conditions for replanting? Dan? I'm sorry, April, go
I'm going to
ahead.
defer this one entirely to April. When you start talking about plants and using Latin words for it, you've lost me, so she's the expert here.
Well, cornisumomum there.
Yeah, what she said.
I would say if what are the next meeting or submittal deadlines? If we could just go from
Sure.
that, and then maybe I can try and figure out what we can work from there.
Well, the next month, the January meeting, the submittal deadline is December 24th.
Yeah,
For a
it's very
January
soon.
10 meeting.
Okay.
That's a little aggressive, right?
Yes.
The February meeting is on the 14th of February.
So the
And the
deadline's
deadline for
January
submittal is
28th.
28th of January.
So none of us have plans for Valentine's Day. That's what I'm hearing.
We're all going beaver hunting here. I don't know what you're up to, but we're fine.
I hope you don't mind hearts on figures.
Kelly puts her hands over her face.
So
So that, to me, that sounds very reasonable. And April, I
February
assume we
meeting?
could work with you. Yeah.
Okay.
By
fine.
January 28th for February
Fine.
14th meeting.
Yep.
And Kelly is letting us know that she has to leave in a few minutes. And the meeting, we won't be able to.
We're close. Kelly, we're close to wrap it up here. So, but you go when you got to go. So.
I
Okay.
gotta go dance. I gotta go pick up my daughter.
Okay. So an amended order for restoration plan by January 28th for the February 14th meeting. And then the beavers, what's the time for that?
I would suggest that we could come back at the January meeting for the meeting portion.
So a
And give
discussion
you
on
an
January
update with tighter dates, or we could communicate them in the meantime as we're developing them. What would be your preference?
They come back to the January 10th meeting.
That's
Does
fine.
that sound okay? Okay.
Yep. Yep, that's reasonable.
I'll put that on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay.
If nothing else, it sounds like we're going to have to at least be able to show at the January hearing that we've removed all the sediment anyway, so
Mhm.
we'll have other things to be reporting.
Yep.
Yes, correct. Yep, good
And that
point.
we're keeping it clear.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Have
Really.
a great holiday. Thanks for
Yeah.
working with us. Continue working with us, and we'll be,
Mhm.
I guess we'll be friends here for a few months down the road here. So it's fine.
Oh, we really appreciate it. And Mia's been great. Mia, thank you very much.
Thank you for
I mean,
being so
you
responsive.
just seem to go out to the site at our request at a drop of a hat.
It's a
I'm sure you have
beautiful
plenty
area.
on your plate.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I'm sure you have plenty on the plate like all of us, and we do appreciate you like coming out to see us on an hour's notice, it seems like. So we appreciate that.
Anytime.
Good deal. Thanks, folks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good
Happy
night.
holidays.
You
Happy
bet.
holidays.
Thank
Stay
you
well.
very much.
All right. And
Check
just
the
us
agenda.
left. All right.
Anything you need votes on?
No, I
I-
think that's it. Just, are
I
you gonna
think
be
we're
around for
good.
the January 10th meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody have a January conflict they know about?
No, not that I'm
Stuff
aware of.
happens. We know that. So, okay. All right, good. January's going to be a chock-a-block meeting. It looks like we have postponements and kickoffs and more discussions about Lyman Street. That's okay.
I'm having surgery on the 11th, so I can't.
January 11th?
I can't stay up very late, so this better not be a late night.
Yeah, I went to a Valentine's Day meeting in Paxton, and we meet at the senior center in the lunchroom, and they had decorated for Valentine's Day. It was over the top, like glitter and tinsel and things hanging everywhere. And we had to like sit at one of these tables and like move the silverware out of the way. And oh, we had
Yeah.
like
Good.
red and white glitter stuck to our arms.
Oh, they're ragers on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
They are.
The chocolate's
Westboro,
flowing.
We
From
do
11
we
to
do it at
1.
the senior center too, so.
From 11
Westboro.
a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a rager.
All right. Anybody have anything critical they want to bring up before we break?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Sounds like we need a motion.
Sounds like a motion to me.
Second,
Who made the motion? Was it Tom or Todd?
Tom made it and Kelly seconded it, and we'll vote it. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
yes.
I vote yes.
All right.
Thank you, Jim DeGiulio.
Thank
Merry
you, Jim.
Christmas, happy holidays, safe travels if you're traveling anywhere. Stay well.
Yep.
If you see a beaver in the road on Lyman Street, swerve to hit it.